everybody responded positively in 72 hours. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that there was a bond. Either you're very bored and lonely, and you wanted a, well, it wasn't a free meal, was it? The hors d'oeuvres and the wine, maybe. Okay. But truly, what you accomplished together is very, very special. We graduate at Berkeley a lot of lawyers and a lot of physicists and a lot of chemists, and there's only one gymnastics team. And in the United States, in any given year, there's only one championship team. Among all the routines that are done, let's say in 3 days of competition there are 200 routines. In that year, the margin of victory is 1/10 of 1 point. It's one knee bend. It's one hooked toe. It's one step on a landing. And you think of gymnastics as an individual event because you're out there all by yourself. But when you realize all of the effort and all of the passion and all of the energy that the team puts together in all of those competitions throughout a season, throughout the years of practice, to get to that point, it comes down to one toe point. And you accomplished that. And you are the one champion of that year. It's so special. It's one thing to graduate, to get a BA, to get an MA, to get a PhD, et cetera. But you know, there are a lot of those. And I value that. We all do. And it's a wonderful accomplishment. But there's only one champion. And you could make that claim all of your life. For 50 years, you've made the claim that you were the national champions. That is very, very special. And I think that camaraderie, that bond, that passion that you gave to yourselves, to your school, to each other, is why you're here. I applaud you for that depth of feeling and that commitment. And I hope that you feel that deeply within yourself, and that response is certainly evidence that you do. So hooray for you. Now, it may be the case that everybody is here. I have to make one amendment. Dennis Rowe did mention that he would be here, and then at the last minute he had to change his mind because his wife is injured, and so he's not coming. Isn't here, of course. So everybody else is, except for Hal Fry. So there is an in memoriam here that we should recognize, and I hope you will help me with that. Hal Fry and Wilma Fry are not here, and they're recently absent from our Mother Earth, and their legacy is going to live on in your hearts and in the Cal program forever. And there are others that I would like to mention, and I hope you can help me with that. Chuck Keeney. All of us were his students as well. Cap Pease, before that, started the program back in the 20s and was the gymnastics coach for a long time. And then there are a number of people. Some of you were at gym camp, Camp Gualala in Santa Cruz for many years, and at the Berkeley YMCA, Ernie Marinoni. Well, let me go back just to a couple of members of the team. My teammate, John Lambden, died a little over a year ago. And there was also a coach who assisted, I think, up until 1965, or was it assistant in 65, Frank Hayland, who is not with us. Bill Borden died in, I think, 1963, very early as a young person. And he was a gymnast, I think, in 60 to 63. Can you think of others that you were your teammates who are not, unfortunately, not able to be here tonight? Is Art? I thought Art was alive still. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, yeah, good. Okay, hooray. Anyone else that you can think of? Yeah, think about your teammates, coaches. Maybe this will stimulate your memory a bit. Ernie Marinoni, of course, from the Berkeley Y. Doc Watts from camp and the Berkeley Y. Martha Suchia from the Berkeley Y and camp. Nils Bengtsson, who was an icon in our area. Claire Jennett, coach at San Jose State. Bill Holmes, who was a many-year member at camp. Steve Johnson. Jim Galt. Ray Anders. Chick Johnson. Dolly Felix. Don Nelson was my teammate. Greg Hetrick. Jack Smith. Think about those contributors. Don, I believe, is still going strong. Yeah. But thank you. Don Allen was a big contributor. He was my assistant coach while I was there, and was a judge for many years, and a huge influence at Berkeley High School and to many gymnasts. That's correct. And who was the other name? Oh, Mas Watanabe. Yeah, very, very big influence here and lots of places, of course, for his installations. Yes, he's okay. And Tom is here, of course. So yeah, I asked about Tom earlier, but I forgot to ask about Mas. But he's still in Sacramento. That's good. Okay. Don Nelson, I was on the list, but yeah, let's not forget him either. He was a fine gymnast and a good person. So, thank you, Tom. Here's to him. Toast them all. Toast all of the people who contributed to your success and ours. Thank you. There were very few events, very few contests, very few championships more exciting than the 1968 championship. And victory by 1/10 of a point, and the final performance was certainly critical in that victory and very memorable. And I think the people who can describe that best are the team members themselves. And I will we'll start out tonight with Herb Solomon giving his own recollections of the team.
How's the sound? Is this loud enough?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Let me know if it's not.
You want to bend the mic down just a touch.
Better? About like that? Yeah? Okay.
Move to the right. Out of the
Move to the right? I've got a thing here.
I'll help you out here. Hang on.
I'm not moving any heavy equipment. What, I can't get any help from the backstage crew? Well, excuse me. So, wow, 50 years. Life is incredibly long and incredibly short at the same time. I'd like to try to present kind of a verbal slideshow of my stroll down Cal Gymnastics memory lane. As a geezer, I trust that you will allow me the luxury of reading my notes. I realize it's ironic that I have to write down my memories so that I can remember them. I went to high school at Long Beach Wilson in Southern California. The Southern California schools were organized into two large federations, the CIF and LA City. It seemed like almost every high school had a gymnastics team, and the system produced many fine gymnasts. I was in the CIF, as was Sid. Rusty Mitchell and later George Greenfield were great gymnasts to come out of the CIF. I remember there were tremendous Latino gymnasts in both the CIF and LA City, but they rarely seemed to go on to four-year universities. My guess is that economics probably had a lot to do with that. The highlight of every year for us was going to Jerry Todd's Pasadena Invitational, where many of the country's best gymnasts came to perform. For some reason, the CIF never competed against the LA City schools, which was a real shame. We knew about the LA guys from watching them on film and occasionally attending the big meets. A showdown would have been really something. When I got to Cal, almost all the Southern California guys on the team seemed to be from the LA system. I was a freshman at Cal in the fall of '63. I knew about the tradition of Art Sherlock, Jim Fairchild, and world record rope climber Paul Davis, and also the great Cal ring tradition. Rich Schmidt, Rich Golden, Steve Zahm. that was later so ably carried on by Rick Field, Josh Robeson, Chuck Jenner, and Eric Corshane. As I walked into the gym for the first time, I almost fell over as I saw Zom do a shoot to an inverted cross, then pull out to a handstand. Paul Newman was throwing his straddle vault catch over the high bar. Rick was bouncing from a front lever to a cross, then pulling out. And glancing over at the tramp, there was the legendary trampoline beach kid and fellow freshman Danny Millman doing a piked Rudy out. I quickly realized that there was a big-time program going on in Little Room 109. The coolest guy on the varsity was a cat named Max Sutherland, but the most elegant gymnast was Crod Chin. I have some salient memories from my freshman year. Millman won the first world championship in trampoline. Josh Robeson, who apparently was yet another LA Steel Ring legend, appeared mid-year and joined the freshman team. But the most painful memory was watching Crod Chin on TV during the NC2A finals on parallel bars. If my memory serves me properly, and there's no guarantees of that, Crod just nailed his routine. All he had to do to win nationals was his dismount, and he fell out of his final handstand. It was like, no, Crod, no. I felt almost as badly as he did. I think he came in fourth in the vault, which hopefully took out some of the sting, but still so close and yet so far. Then it was 64-65, and we were on the varsity. Sid, against whom I had competed in the CIF, showed up as a redshirt. There was Lonnie Cap, almost replicating Takashi Ono's Olympic gold medal high bar routine. I had never seen such power on the high bar. He bent the bar so much it looked like it was going to snap. Lonnie suffered a tragic injury that season. Otherwise, he certainly would have won nationals. Walk-on Scott Swanton was called to emergency duty to fill in for Lonnie on the high bar, an impossible task for which he proved more than capable. Rick Field, whose dad played Tarzan and Yancey Derringer, became our Rock of Gibraltar in all-around and our fearless leader. Hal said that Rick never had a bad workout. Rick, you maximized your skills more than any athlete I'd ever seen and provided us with a firm foundation. We were all kind of in awe of your accomplishments. Rick later became a close associate of physics legend Richard Feynman at Caltech for 10 years. Paul Newman was a tremendous and consistent performer and all-around and all-American on P-bars and high bar, never missing a move, especially his one-arm handstand at the end of his P-bars routine. Both Rick and Paul had great performances in nationals, as did Danny. Chuck Jenner showed surprising strength for his size and was well on his way to becoming a very good ringman. Ray Hadley, who I was hoping would be here tonight, but he's not, was a great all-around man from the Big Ten and the USGF national team. And he was in the gym every day. He often competed with us on an exhibition level and inspired our workouts. I was joined on the varsity by fellow walk-ons Pat Bailey, Paul Benya, and Jim Lindstrom. Pat, you made the most of your ability and became a very good trampolinist. Paul, there was never a dull moment when you were on the gym going through your routines on P-bars and pommel horse. I admired your courage in being one of the first to use the Diamondov. Jim, you came through when Hal desperately needed a third trampolinist. That took a lot of determination, and I applaud you for it. We had the best team in the country that year, but we got eliminated from nationals by a rules quirk at the conference championships in Seattle when the Washington coach stacked the judges with local alumni. The last time I saw Hal, he told me that that screw job was still sticking in his craw more than anything else in his life. We would have won the whole thing in '65. I mean, it was a bad scene. My junior year, the team was joined by two guys from Berkeley High, Tom Bruce and Bill Fujimoto, adding needed strength in several events. It was amazing to watch Tom running full bore down the runway in the vault, considering that he was legally blind. I guess he instinctively knew that what he couldn't see couldn't hurt him. We always knew where Bill was. Whenever we heard a splat, All we had to do was look over by the pommel horse, and sure enough, there was Fujimoto flat on his back. But you always came through when the chips were down with second place finishes in the conference on pommel horse 2 years in a row. Yeah. We were also joined that year by Sid, giving us, along with Dan, two of the most spectacular gymnasts in the country. I had never seen a gymnast with Sid's athletic ability and power. Had he been a few inches taller and 20 pounds heavier, he probably could have played running back for Cal. And he still remains the only person to ever do a standing front flip in a restaurant while wearing cowboy boots in front of Hal's old coach, Gene Whetstone, and the Penn State team the day before the '67 finals. I'm not making this up. It was a sight to behold, watching Sid and Dan trying to outdo each other every day. They were like Heckle and Jekyll, never a dull moment. Nobody had ever had a kinesthetic sense of where his body was in space like Millman's. Dan refused from an early age to accept Newton's law of universal gravitation as a guiding principle in his life, and he almost got away with it. Just on a lark, just for the hell of it, one meet in the vault on the spur of the moment, without telling anybody, Dan decided to try the first double front out of a plain handspring ever done in the world without a spotter. He asked me during warm-ups if I thought he could make it. Sure, Dan, what the hell? Go for it, you know. Sure, well, you know. So he went for it and actually made it around to his butt. The judges had no idea what to do. Hal jumped out of his seat, shook his head, sighed, and sadly sat down again. The team was loaded that year. We drew huge crowds to our home meets, and we even on occasion had Rick's sister, Sally Field, the flying nun, holding up the judges' scorecards. Roy Davis, a Cal gymnast from the late 50s, often was one of our judges. After the meets, team members would be crowding around Roy, peppering him with questions. Roy, how could they have scored Sakamoto over Sid on the floor? Roy, why do they always underscore Millman on pommel horse? Roy, what'd you think of Rick's routine on rings? One time, Scott Swanton elbowed his way to the front of the crowd and said, Roy, should a martini be drunk shaken or stirred? Without batting an eye, Roy shot back shaken and went on to the next question. Scott's other great moment was just nailing his high bar routine in nationals, allowing us to lock up second place after we were in fifth place going into the final event. For that, Scott was voted the most improved gymnast. Our hopes were high going into the summer. Though we were losing Rick, Lonnie, and Chuck, everyone else was coming back, and we were also adding Joel Tepp on pommel horse and Gary Diamond in all-around. Then came the terrible news. Millman, trying the world's first piked full-in back out on his chopper while flying over a car at 50 miles an hour without a spotter, failed to stick his landing, instantly furthering his riding career but leaving us high and dry without our spiritual leader. Whoops, there goes the gold watch. We had a reasonably good season with Joel and Gary performing admirably. Joel won, I think he won conference in pommel horse. And Gary's rock band had the best name, Watch for Rocks. Run that one through your head for a while. But we just didn't have it at nationals. The highlight was Josh on rings. The night before the finals, unable to sleep, Josh woke me up at 4 a.m. to tell me he was unable to sleep. It's like, what? Dude, you're waking me up to tell me that? Then later that day, he went out and just destroyed the competition to win national championship and Josh became athlete of the year for the entire UC system. And then like a dream, it was over for those of us out of eligibility as we returned to the rest of our lives. The remaining guys, plus the addition of Eric, Dennis, Paul, and Judd, went on to the glory of winning nationals the next season. Eric, I think I remember you fumbling around in the gym as a freshman. Dennis, Paul, and Judd, I don't think we were ever in room 109 together. George, I think we went to a physics seminar with Nobel Prize winner Owen Chamberlain on one of your visits to Cal. Ron Bell, Tom Gardner, Juan Sanchez, you guys came along later after I was gone. In a sense, the 65 through the 68 teams were the same team, one solid thing. Crod Chin, Paul Newman, and Rick Field created the matrix for the rest of us to fit into when we arrived at Cal. Then you guys on the 68 team finished off what they started in glorious fashion by winning the team title. And for that, we salute you. Thanks.
For additional recollections and perhaps rebuttals, Sid Freudenstein.
All right, if I lower this. Can you hear it? Okay. That's a hard act to follow. Pretty damn good. Anyway, I'm not even sure why I was invited to talk, because 2 of the last 3 times I spoke to many of you, once at the Hall of Fame induction, and another time when we had the 100th anniversary of the team up at the Memorial Stadium, which wasn't finished. They turned the lights off. Or basically they told me the lights were coming off, so we had to cut short. And some people talk too long. And so Hal at the 100th, I think, talked for a long time, which I'm glad he did. And then at the Hall of Fame thing, one of the, I think it was a rugby player, he went on for an hour, I think. So my time is cut short. So I decided I'm going to cut mine short, and hopefully I don't bore you too much. Yeah, already, huh? Anyway, I was asked to talk about the 68 season, and especially about the competition at Tucson. But first, I wanted to say a little bit about the team and the spirit of the gym. Herb did an excellent job. He actually stole some of my thunder, because I was going to say some of the same things, only more eloquent. I look at the picture that Tom and Bill sent on the website about the team, and I've seen it, many times, the picture of us accepting the award for the championships, and I only count 10 individuals in that picture. And yet, there were so many of you, and some that are not here, that actually set the stage, and just like Herb said, set the stage for what was to come. And we were just sort of the recipients of the expertise and the drive that you all gave us. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about a few people that had an influence on me. Obviously, Rick and I, who roomed together for 2 years, he was the prior captain. He was the star when I came in. And Danny was, I didn't really know Danny because he was in the LA system. And I didn't realize, how good he was. And, I was best. I happened to win the CIF that year, and just by a fluke. And because they counted tumbling as part of the awards, the all-around. They didn't have all-around. It was just high point man. Yeah, that's it. So anyway, and so Rick and I, for some reason, I think because of the physics interest and stuff, we hit it off. And, we roomed together for 2 years. And, of course, he was assistant coach, for some of that time. And I'm pretty sure I never would have graduated with a physics degree except without the help of Rick. And Tom Bruce, because we studied together quite a bit and suffered through, what the hell was that problem about, And then Jimmy, of course, I got to give her some kudos, because she actually was our roommate after they got married. But they didn't have anywhere to live, and so, together. And anyway, we were roommates, and we formed an interesting trio. Uh, and Rick's, well, no, we shared a lot of meals and did a lot of things. And then Rick's sister came. I remember when she came to one of the competitions to hand out awards. I think she slept on our couch, didn't she? If I recall. I go, imagine that. And we just kind of took it all in stride back then. It's just like, oh yeah, of course, we live in California. We're we know all these famous people. We're getting awards. Everything's just going great. I was going to talk about Scott and Herb, and I had some interesting things to say. Well, I just want to say there were a few people that scared me a lot. Scott was definitely one of them. Herb was kind of like the cheerleader. I mean, he was the man of happiness, and yet he could turn around and be serious at the same time, because he is the historian, I think, of not just our team, but also of Southern California, because for some reason he keeps track of these things. And then Chuck Jenner, who I don't know if you noticed, he came in a little late, but he's back there. When I first arrived on the planet, I didn't have any place to stay. I was staying at a motel down on University, and I came in and walked in the gym, and Hal said, "Oh, hi. Go talk to Chuck. I think we have a place for you to stay." And it turns out that Chuck, who grew up in Berkeley, his neighbor across the street was an empty nester, and she had a room for her son had just moved out, I think. And so I stayed in the kind of the walkout basement right there across from Chuck, with a beautiful view of the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, out my bathroom window. But I was hoping Ray Hadley would be here, because I hadn't even thought about him for a long time. But I have a great story. I think we were at one of the Tucson Winter Clinic competitions, and some beast of a guy does Olympic cross, and he goes, does another Olympic cross. I go, what the heck is that? He goes, repetition. I about lost it. Because if you knew Ray, he was just real serious and dry sense of humor, to say the least. George, who we didn't interact that much, as I recall, when I was there, but he obviously was the next star and Olympian, and I didn't really fully appreciate all your accomplishments until the Hall of Fame, to tell you the truth. Clueless I am. Paul Newman. I practice one-arm handstand on the floor, on the P-bars, on the parallettes. I don't know how you ever did that, But you helped me a lot, actually, on P-bars. Taught me some things, and I was grateful for that. Anyway, and there's people I haven't mentioned. Lonnie, who is always a inspiration and interesting person. All of you contributed so much to my early. I mean, you accepted me. I was this kid from Anaheim High School. I was a surfer, I thought, and it really. I realized, just like Herb said, I realized I'd walked into something special, and it made a huge difference in my life. And I think it's rubbed off a little bit. I'm pretty sure I never would have got into graduate school if it hadn't been for my gymnastics experiences, including the Olympics, and or at least I wouldn't have got a scholarship. And things have worked out. So anyway, I was going to talk about the season. I'll just say one thing. We thought we were perfect until we went to L.A. That one fateful trip, and Yep. And how many competitions? We were undefeated all season.
83 straight.
Yeah. 83 straight. And that obviously wasn't. We didn't have that long of a season. I mean, it wasn't that long. Anyway, that was a wake-up call. I think even though some of us were injured and we weren't at our best, I think we're also kind of tired from traveling and stuff.
And the floor was a few feet short.
Ah. I forgot about that. That's my excuse. Okay. And then Tucson. Tucson was a very familiar place because we'd been to Winter Clinic there a couple times at least, several times, and then of course many of us got sick, and thank goodness Tom Bruce's mother, who was a nurse, kind of helped us kind of get up to a certain level of preparedness. I waited in horror at trampoline because I was sort of the backup trampolinist, and I hated it, and I was scared to death of it. Luckily, Pat Bailey and Dennis Rowe and Dan came through, so we only counted 3 scores, so I didn't have to go. And I think that saved us the championship, because if I'd had to compete in trampoline, and I'd be throwing up the rest of the competition. Rick, I can't believe when I thought about this. Rick and I were roommates, right? He was assistant coach for our team. And he was one of the judges. You imagine getting away with that today? And yet, he was the worst judge in the whole group.
Very hard on you guys. Even harder on the other guys.
And I'll never forget, Rick had a little aluminum foil tray under his chair in case he threw up. I don't know if he was going to throw up because he was actually sick or he was sick of our performances. But anyway, I ran out of pills. I just want to say that even though I went on to go to the Olympics, and I finally got my PhD, and I wonderful marriage to my beautiful wife Kathy, and had lots of successes. Nothing, and I apologize, honey. Nothing was as thrilling as that moment when Danny landed his routine, and we knew that. I mean, you realize that he did a double German. I think the first time in his life. I think. So anyway, I mean, that was a glorious ending, and that's why we're all here. And I think that the fact that we all bonded so well. I mean, I can't believe that we're all alive. But anyway, thank you so much for all your support. And, I don't even know who's next, Roy?
Danny.
Oh, Danny. Go for it. Actually, I'm told his official name is Dan, but we all know him as Danny. So.
Okay, so I can see and you can see. Well, I begin, you notice no notes and no clue as to what I'm going to say, but I figured I'd just open my heart, open my mouth, because it is an extraordinary gathering of extraordinary people, apart from our gymnastics, but perhaps because of it. I think we all grow to value it more, like anything that's a few years old. We can appreciate our time together, more perspective, because the people we met afterward and the special relationships we had as gymnasts. Now, I have a name tag, but you all know my name probably, but it helps me to remember at this age. And the idea, I guess, is to say some inspiring remarks, but somebody came up to me after a talk I gave once and said, I feel kind of inspired. I said, don't worry, it'll pass. Because it does, doesn't it? So I thought I would sow some seeds and say a few comments in reflection on the importance of our gathering in our lives. Everyone is important, of course, but just in different ways. As a segue, I thought I'd mention in special appreciation, before I get into these remarks, I know we applauded Bill Fujimoto and Tom Bruce for all their efforts in making this possible. It wouldn't have happened, but maybe we could do that once more for Bill and Tom. Yeah. But also, I had the anchor position in the national championships, so I was the last guy up, pressure position. I tended to do pretty well under pressure like that. But I think the guy from Berkeley, there was one person who really won the championships for us. And we rarely honor this. He went to Berkeley High School. He was very familiar, worked out at the Berkeley Y, a very talented young gymnast named Paul Mayer. Anybody remember Paul Mayer? Yeah, and Paul ended up going to Southern Illinois, who was our major competition that was between us. And Paul kindly blew his routine on a high bar. My theory is, subconsciously, he was still a Berkeley guy. So if he'd nailed that routine, I don't know that we could have done it. I might have had to throw triple German. I don't know. You know, when I was just doing Germans, Lonnie could do it like 8 in a row. Lonnie could do as many as he wanted. And so I just didn't know how to do a double German. And I asked Lonnie, what do you do? And he said, you go around twice. Who knew? You know? It was like, oh. So, yeah, that's how it worked. But we all know this. Yeah, it was a fun thing to stick my dismount, very satisfying last routine of my life officially and really in competition. But just before me, do you recall Sid's double way up over the bar? Nailed it, stuck it too. Judd did 3/10 better than he'd ever done before. Without that, we wouldn't have done it. And Bill and every man on the team. So every single guy contributed to that. I just got the glory position, you know. So I guess the topic that I'm supposed to speak about is memories of Hal and Wilma Fry. But it seems odd to me to try to do that. I'm getting some interference here. Is that you, Hal? Hal, will you stop fiddling with your glasses? It's distracting me. We all have our memories of Hal Fry and Wilma Fry. And as usual, the woman behind the man rarely gets the acknowledgement. But now it's a time of women. Yes, ladies? Yes. To really appreciate, she gave him that stable, solid life, freed his attention to devote to us. Scott Swanton was asking me earlier this evening, what do you think it was? Hal really wasn't a master of biotechnology. He didn't know techniques, you know. But Hal, I was trying something on the parallel bars. Hal, what am I doing wrong? He said, let me see it from this angle. And then he'd go, let me see it from this angle. And by the time he saw it from the fourth angle, I could do the move. You know? But he had a way, you know that, but he had a way of organizing us, you know? He had these structured workouts. You can do upper body, lower body, these events today. And it meant so much to him. It was so clearly a big part of his life that it was important to us too. He really cared. And I think that's really his primary strength, the heart he put into it. And we had to figure out how to do things, which was part of the fun. And many of us went on to do a little teaching or coaching. Sid, formerly, and myself. And some of you also. Juan Sanchez is here. Tom? Yeah, Tom Gardner. We all had to figure out how you do these things, which was so much a part of it. But now I want to segue. Rather than just saying, well, I remember when Hal did this or that, because we all have that. And I'd want to honor your individual memories of Hal Fry and what he contributed to our lives. We all know he was a father figure. Whether we acknowledge it or not, he is our father away from home who set the rules and disciplines and guidelines. Remember, if you have a fever, don't come in. If you don't have a fever, you're here. Do you remember that? Yeah. And so he set those guidelines for us on dedication, and we met those as best we could. So I'd like to reflect on something maybe a little bit bigger. It's sort of in my wheelhouse, what I've been doing for 30 years. And just reflecting, I'd like to start with a bit of a story about the old man I called Socrates. Some of you know from the movie or a book I wrote. And he was in the gym with me one night, late at night, watching me. We're the only ones in the gym. And I was recovering from the leg injury and so on. And I did a full twisting double off the high bar and stuck my landing. And I figured, yes, you know, that was a good place to end the workout. So I ripped off my sweatshirt, threw it in my workout bag, and then we were walking down the hallway afterward. And Socrates turned to me and said, you know, Dan, that last move you did was really sloppy. And I said, what are you talking about, Sock? It was the best dismount I'd done in weeks. He said, oh, I'm not talking about the dismount. I'm talking about the way you took off your sweatshirt and put it in your bag. And he reminded me, again, I was treating one moment off the high bar as special and another moment as ordinary. And that's when he again said, Dan, there are no ordinary moments. And then he added something, and I got this line actually into the Peaceful Warrior movie. He said, Dan, the difference between us is you practice gymnastics. I practice everything. And that really had a profound impact on me, but I didn't really learn what that meant till years later. The idea that we do things every day. We do the laundry, we do our dishes, we do our homework, we go to work and we do that. But how many of us practice those things? Because as we know, as gymnasts, as athletes, we know what training is. And the idea of doing something not just to do it, but to improve it. How many of us are still improving when we sign something? Improving our signature? Or improving the way we walk? Or breathe, or sit, or stand? And as soon as we practice something, we reach a different level of absorption. We get in the zone. Not just what we know from going off the high bar, pommel horse, or one of the apparatus, but we in daily life, can you imagine being as absorbed because you're practicing this and practicing that? And it brings a different quality of life, quality of our moments. So to me, that is something we've all learned through the training we did in gymnastics. And it can carry over into everyday life. That's what always interested me, because gymnastics was a part of life. But for most of us, it's become like a metaphor, a master metaphor. There's that Japanese saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. You know, if you can serve tea properly, you can do anything. So having done that practice of gymnastics, see, athletes learn all the universal laws through their practice. The law of process, doing things one step at a time. We've learned about persistence, about being in the present moment. Nobody has to write a book or tell us about what it means to live in the present moment when you're up and doing a routine, right? We're right there. We're not thinking about dinner or breakfast tomorrow or the past or future. We're right in the moment. So we all know these things. And I believe athletes, and I have profound respect for athletes because I've never met a dumb athlete. You know, the old dumb jock thing? Now, I've met people who were maybe just hulks on a football field throwing their bodies at other bodies, but people who do coordinated movements and practice balance learn something about balance for life. And people who do learn rhythm and timing can also learn timing for everyday life. And doing all these athletic skills makes smart nervous systems. And the nervous system of the body, of course, connected to the brain. So I've met non-academic athletes, but I've never met a dumb athlete because we get smart bodies practicing over time. And to me, that's a greater value than just learning German giant or somersault. And this carrying over into daily life is something we all share. We don't talk about much because so many athletes are focused on the scores and the points and winning and losing. And we don't know we're doing a profound form of study, psychological, psychophysical training. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I think that's what Hal would have wanted me to share with you. Something we all carry together, we can take with us the rest of our lives. So, yeah, there are memories of Hal and memories of Wilma and memories we share together. There's that old saying, I'm not a particularly religious guy, but I love the saying, God invented men and women because God loves stories. You know, and every one of us has a story. Our story is our treasure. There's not a single story on the planet exactly like yours or yours or yours. We're a story in the making still. We're a novel being written, each of us, and you never know what the next chapter is going to be. So I wish you good stories, good journeys, good chapters of your lives, and thanks a lot.
JT Okada. I want to thank you, Danny and Sid and Herb, for your reminiscences and your humorous stories. And JT will now tell us what the future is going to be. Thank you very much, JT.
Well, those are all difficult speeches to follow. I'm not sure if I'm going to tell you what the future is going to be because I don't know. It's a big question mark for me as well. But I'm first of all, I'm really grateful to be able to share in this reunion with all of you. In the past just 2 days, I feel like I've learned a lot about the context in which this team was able to have this success. In the 60s, late 60s, and even the teams that were here and the people that were here that allowed this 68 team to have this championship. It's having tear gas, flowing into your gym while you're practicing is something my guys have never experienced, something this team has never had to deal with, and so and also we have updated equipment and soft landing mats and a lot of safety precautions and grips with dowels that allow you to, stay on the equipment longer, and a lot of things that we take for granted now that I've just, remembered in the past day or so that we take those for granted and that we, have no excuse to not do better. But it's been great to see your memories out there and interacting with our current team. A lot of you got the opportunity to meet with them yesterday and today, see them in action, see them fall off the pommel horse, just like some of you might remember. See them have some hit routines as well, which some of you might remember. So it was a really great opportunity to just really sit back and observe all of that. So that's sort of where I see what you guys saw was genuinely the team we have. We have 16 guys. I know I've gotten a lot of comments. Wow, you got a big team. There's 16 of them, so I think you're counting twice or something. I'm not sure. Counting coaches in there. I've gotten a lot of comments about how young I look, which I take as a compliment. I'll take that. So appreciate it. But no, we have 16 guys on the team, and I can honestly say that every single one of them is a person that I try to connect with individually. I try to understand them in their own context, also where they're coming from, because like all of you, they came from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, different contexts, different lives they're leading. Some of them are first generation to go to college in their family. Some of them are foreign. Some of them come from very socioeconomically challenged backgrounds. And that's one of the points that I really like to talk about this current team is how diverse they are. But one thing that I think we're really unified in is our culture. This has been the best team culture that I've ever seen. This is my 6th year with this program, 5 years of assistant coaching before becoming the head coach now. And I can honestly say that the team culture, in our opinion, as we constantly evaluate how we're doing, is at an all-time high. We focus on 3 things daily in the gym, in competition, in practice, and that's attitude, concentration, and effort. We call it our ace up our sleeves. These are the 3 things that we've been preaching since day one of myself taking this position, because it's actually a belief of mine, of ours, and now as a whole team, that we believe that if we can get the culture right, if we can work on attitude, concentration, and effort day in and day out, we have enough talent that will find success. It's a belief system. Right? We don't talk about, I don't go to them, and of course I have to handle all the scoring and make sure that they're starting at good start values and getting minimizing deductions. But when I talk to them as a group, I evaluate them on those 3 things. Guys, how do we do today in this practice competition with our attitude? Well, I saw a lot of hanging heads. That's a problem. We got to work on that. But I saw everyone was really focused, laser sharp focus for the warm-up. That's good. We got the concentration part right. What about effort? Did we give it our all? Did we get to sleep at a good time yesterday? Did we wake up, have a good breakfast and come in ready to go? How's our effort? And those are the things we really talk about. And they're probably sick and tired of hearing attitude, concentration, and effort by now. I'm sure there's things that your coaches preach to you that you had heard enough of. So culturally and where I see this program going from here is nowhere but up. These are my philosophies that I've tried to coach with as well. And when I evaluate where we're going and how I'm doing in my job, I look at my attitude, concentration, and effort. And You know, this program has seen its ups and it's seen its downs, and just a little bit of a recap, in case you know you haven't had that connection with the program in a long time. But since you guys winning the national championship, this program has gone on to win 3 more, 75, and 97 and 98. So 98 is having their 20-year anniversary. So really, in my mind, it was your championship that put Cal on the map as a contender, a national contender, and also left a legacy for these other teams to win their championships. And really, when I talk about Cal men's gymnastics, I have so many good things to say, and so the history is so rich. I think I told a lot of you, sitting on my desk as when I was digging through and looking for that 68 trophy that's sitting in the back of the room, we came across a trophy from the Berkeley YMCA to Cal men's gymnastics from 1913. So you guys like to come in here and say, yeah, we're the old guys. You're not the old guys.
No, but we're alive.
Yes, yes, yes. But you guys kept joking about being alive, and after some of the rollouts I saw you guys do, I'm pretty amazed that you guys are alive. That stuff that's no joke. But anyways, all joking aside, this program in 2011 had some really bad news. It was dropped from the university as a sponsored team. 5 teams were dropped: rugby, women's gymnastics, men's gymnastics, women's lacrosse, and baseball. 5 teams. Yeah, it was a big deal. At that point, you know, all of those teams said, what do we have to do to come back? We want to stay as teams. What do we have to do? It was through rugby's fundraising efforts that they came back, along with the 2 women's sports I mentioned, lacrosse and women's gymnastics. Baseball was able to reach out and rally their alumni and raise enough funds to be brought back. And it was just men's gymnastics left. And it was through a lot of the efforts of people in this room, not here in this room with us today, that rallied together, galvanized the alumni, and did something that no men's gymnastics program has ever done. And I'm not talking about winning anything, but it's bringing a program back that was once dropped. And a lot of you deserve a round of applause for that. So at that point, 2011, enough money was pledged, not actually raised, but pledged, to bring the program back for an 8-year term. Do some quick math majors out there. Yeah, that's coming up, right? 2019. It is imperative that you understand the situation, because as I talk to the gymnasts about being grateful for everything, and not to sound cliche, but having an attitude of gratitude, this program is not here because people got complacent and because people were lazy. It's here because people worked very hard and have continued to support this program, financially and otherwise. And whenever I talk to any alumni, any group of people, I ask them to first and foremost donate and be a fan. Either of those, both of those, in whatever capacity you have, is important. You know, the bottom line is, I want to continue to offer this opportunity to young men who want to go to college at a premier university and want to do gymnastics at a high level. It's that simple. There's no, you know, like Dan, I can't come up here and try to, you know, inspire you. That will pass. But what I'm talking about is, you all had an opportunity to come to college, and you didn't have to choose between doing gymnastics and going to college. You're able to come here and have that opportunity. And so the biggest thing that I hope to accomplish as a head coach and directing this program now is to continue to offer this opportunity to young men. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to continue to fundraise. We're very proactive now. We run a meet, we run camps and clinics to raise funds, and we also do a lot to reach out to our alumni. We, you know, this is the first of a few celebrations this year. We hope, I know a lot of you are out of town, but we hope that you, you know, continue to follow us at whatever distance you can. And, you know, I'm available. I'm actually happy to give my cell phone number and email out to all of you. And I hope that you contact me. I hope that you guys can follow us on social media. I hope that your emails are current and you're getting the newsletters that have been sent out pretty much monthly at this point. And so my message to you is your work's not done. Thank you for winning the championship. But your work's not done. I want you to at the very least be fans and get to know the guys on our team. A lot of them have questions about ring strength, questions about what you've done with your careers, where you're at in your life, what context you won that championship in. And so I really encourage you to reach out to this team, get to know them, and help me continue to make this an opportunity for young men. Go Bears.
Well, just to echo what JT has said about the team and keeping it going, I hope you can think about what's in your hearts and what's in your memories from your experiences and being champions, being as special as you are, and thinking about what gymnastics has contributed to your life and how special it's been, the friendships you've made, the discipline you exhibited, and the rewards that you've gained from that. Because that reward is available to the future gymnasts as well, and they are in jeopardy. So I've been contributing on a regular basis for 30 years, and I hope to keep contributing. But I remember many times talking with Hal about how hard it is to get gymnasts to contribute. That other sports, even with lesser numbers of competitors, have been able to put together endowments. And it's been a struggle every year for gymnastics. It's been so special to all of you and so special to us. The passion that you felt. Reach inside and try to find that again and hope that with your contributions, it can be preserved and given and available to the gymnasts in the future. And I'll turn the mic over to Tom and wish you all and hope you'll share with me, go Bears! Go Bears!
Thanks, Roy. I'd like to take just another minute to tell you about the website and what we're going to do afterwards. Thank you first for coming. This has been fun. All the work that goes, look at all this. Yeah. I've got a website up on the internet. Most of you have been there, have been hits. I've watched where they come from. It was Josh who was in Miami Beach, huh? Okay. And I'll continue to maintain that. If you're taking photos, if you've got video, if you've got all that, send it to me. If you've got stuff that you're going to put up in Flickr or whatever, send it to me. I don't want to include links to external sources, so I'll reload it into our website so that somebody doesn't give me a link and then pornography shows up. But if you've got it, send it in. It's been a wonderful experience going through all these old photos and this old film and putting this stuff together. And I saw some stuff from Jimmy this morning that was great. You just keep it up. We'll collect this for however long it takes. The website is going to be out there for as long as Google allows you to have a free website in Google Sites. Doesn't have a domain name, so I don't have to worry about not paying the $9.95 a year and losing it. It'll be there as long as Google's there and as long as YouTube is there to hold the video. Everything you've seen tonight in the programs is on that video that's in your package. There's a package in there, a video in there. It's got nothing written on it. You might want to write something on it. In that is my business card with the address for tomorrow morning's breakfast. I didn't want to post that on the internet. I didn't think that would be right. So we'll keep it up. This has been a joyful experience, let me tell you. I've got one more thing to show you. It takes 4 minutes, but Bill'd like to say something to you too. So,
Bill screwed up on the program, and it's not ready yet. So it was supposed to be in your packet. So it will be mailed to you. There will be a PDF on it. I did work on it, but printers are printers. So I just want to tell you that. And again, Tom did a lot of work on this, and I think he deserves a good round of applause.
It's called service, right, Dan? What do you got left to do, huh, at this point? Okay, I've got one more to show you. And at the end of this, please stick around. The bar is still open. There's still coffee. I don't think the dessert's gone. For those of you that are coming tomorrow morning, show up anytime after 8 o'clock. I'll be making waffles as fast as I can. We've got coffee coming in. And so please come tomorrow morning. It's kind of funny. Bill told me last, at the beginning of this, he said, you ought to put something into the price of it for breakfast and so on. I said, hey, last time 5 people showed up. There's 38 of you tomorrow morning. Wonderful. It's going to be great. So I got one more to show you. Here it goes.